Alright, welcome back to Unbound Chapters podcast. I'm Sandra.
I'm Isabel.
Today we are reviewing chapters 27 through 36 of Quicksilver by Callie Hart. There's a lot more chapters than the last video, but still roughly the same amount of pages. I gotta say, these short chapters, I loved it. I read faster. I read faster when they're shorter chapters. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense to you?
Yes and no.
Yeah, I was reading so much faster when they were short because I was like, I just looked at the chapter and I was like, should I read it? And I was like, 6 pages. I'm reading it. 10 pages. All right. There's like 23. I'm like, do I want to read this chapter? Like, it just depends on what's happening, I guess. But after we ended on chapter 26, yeah, I definitely... 26 was too deep. Definitely had to continue reading right away. 27 did not disappoint.
It was a good first chapter.
I highlighted a few things, so I guess I'll talk about it. So she helps him at the end of 26, like, calm down, get over whatever was happening to him, which... there's no explanation for what happened to him. Do you think it's the Quicksilver? Do you think it's a blood oath?
I think it's the Quicksilver.
Possibly.
Based on what we've read.
Yeah, possibly.
I think it's the Quicksilver.
Which is, like, crazy.
I guess it could be the curse. It could possibly still be the curse, but I think it's...
The vampire curse
Yeah.
thing?
I think it's definitely the Quicksilver's majority, and maybe they're playing together to hurt him.
Yeah, I was also thinking a little bit about Malcolm too, because of what happened later on in the chapters. Maybe just trying to push him to come before we'll get to that. But anyway, so they're in bed, he's sleeping, she's sleeping, and they wake up. Of course, pretty common thing happens to a lot of guys in the morning.
And his hand had also drifted from stomach to further up.
Under boob, rib cage,
His sleep.
So she was like, she thought that he was still maybe sleeping, but she said that she's been around enough people to know, like, when their breathing changes that they're, like, sleeping or not sleeping. And she just kept thinking, like, if I move, if I say something, he's going to get up. All of this is going to be ruined. Like, let me just, wiggle a little bit, pretty much. So she pretty much doesn't fully initiate it first. I feel like he kind of initiates it by just his hand placement. Like, this is, like, your call. Like, you're next, like, your choice. So... she's just gonna grind on him, and she's, like, thinking about these things, like, in her head, like, have sex with me, more provocatively, the F word, like, take me, own me, all these things, and she's, like, saying what she wants in her head, and then she hears him in her head, and she was like, surely I just, like, imagine that because it's what I want. And she's, like, talking in her head and stuff, and, things are getting progressive, things are going, and she's getting ready to, like, take off her shirt, and this is, like, the coolest magic, I swear. She's getting ready to, like, take off her shirt, and suddenly, his little smoking magic, all her clothes are gone. His pants are gone. Like, you don't need anything anymore. You don't even gotta work to take your clothes off. It just happens. And she's, like, getting really worked up. Nothing, like, too crazy is happening, but she's, like, getting really, really worked up. And
she's kind of been waiting for a
while.
Yeah.
And she just keeps, like, talking. In her head. What she wants, and he complies. She's talking in her head, you know, like what she wants, what she needs, and I highlighted this because this is, why is it so hard, you know? This is every warrior in, do you say Inir? INNIR?
I just look at it and I don't really read it.
I do that with a couple things. Will smell me on you. I'm going to make you hoarse from screaming my name. I'm going to mark you in every way imaginable so that everyone knows that you're fucking mine. I want to be someone's. I want to be someone's. And at this point, she's like, okay, holy shit, I didn't, like, fantasize, hallucinate that. He's literally in my head right now. And she's telling him, in her mind, to bite her. And she's like, I want it, like, do it. And he's like, oh, I can't. She's, like, yelling in her head, like, bite me. And he does. He bites her. It's painful, and then it's not painful. And it's wonderful and magical and awesome. And, yeah, it's the best thing imaginable for her. And, pretty much, I also highlighted this because the way she just, like, gets off, it's, like, world-shattering. How can something be this good? You know?
I mean, it was described that way to her,
I know,
so.
but anyway, yeah, he's biting her and drinking her blood, and they both kind of finish. It's like world shattering. She's like, he's dying. No, he's being reborn, which is crazy. But yeah, so they do all that stuff, and afterwards she's like, oh, my blood, he bit me, it was magical, it was great, it was freaking fantastical, you know, whatever. And everything's good. Anything else you want to say? Like, I want to say, but I want them to read the best parts, you know what I mean? If that makes sense. Yeah, so anyway, they finish. Things are great. They're gonna eat. He's so cute on the warm floor. Yeah, so...
Well, they fell asleep and she...
Yeah, they fell asleep, and then when they woke up, or when she woke up, she was alone and he was out.
She could smell breakfast and coffee, though, which is a really good smell. After, I guess, breaking the world apart with...
Yeah. I just want, like, pancakes. I don't want coffee. Pancakes. Or hot chocolate. Like this. Yeah, and, so... Oh. As they are getting... Well, as she's getting ready to eat the breakfast, she, like, starts to freak out because she has a whole bunch of hand tattoos now. And she's still not happy with the first tattoo that she got, but now she's like, this is way more.
Tattoos on her fingers.
Yeah, her fingers, the back of her hand, wrapped around her wrist. Like, she has a lot of tattoos now, and she said, like, the lines are huge, everything just comes everywhere, and, like, she's really shocked by it. He's also a bit shocked, but not in the same way that she is, obviously. And she's like, well, first she was freaking about the tattoos, and then she was like, can you also explain, like, are you actually in my head? Can you read my thoughts? He's like, I can't read your thoughts, but if they're directed to me, then yeah, I can do that. So, and he's like, oh, well, that's it. And she's like, that's it? Like, that's a lot. Which I think is kind of cool. Like, if I could talk to you in your head, that would be sick as fuck. Like, I could literally just not even look at you and just be like, I fucking hate these people. Why do they talk so fucking much? Just typing, you know what I mean? I don't even have to, like, make a point to look at you. But also...
I don't want you in my head.
Yeah, so I was thinking, I was like, I don't really... Yeah. 'Cause then you can't hear me talk shit about you. Just kidding. So she's just asking about like what all the tattoos and stuff mean, and he's pretty vague about it, and she's annoyed by it, but he can't really tell her what every single thing means. I mean, he talked a little bit about what some of them mean. They mean pretty decent things. Like, I wouldn't be upset about them, about like what they mean, but he just says he can't tell her what all of them mean, and he's just like, she's pretty upset by them, and he's like, well, I can get rid of them temporarily until you decide, you know, if you want them or don't want them. And he's like, the marks on the hands, they're chosen for you. You don't get to choose them, but they'll be gone after a month if you really don't want it. Like, they'll be gone for good. And then she's just saying that, like, his tattoos, they don't disappear. They just come onto her, I guess. And yeah, just talking about stuff. And she mentions the one on her collarbone. She's like, oh, well, you said you would get rid of this one. And then, like, the whole mood changes, and she realized that he wasn't even looking at that tattoo. He was looking at the bite marks. So, his whole demeanor, his whole mood just changed, and she was like, I was talking about that tattoo. He was looking at the bite mark, which I don't know why he's so upset about the bite mark.
I feel like it has to do something with his time with Malcolm.
That's probably true. Yeah, you're right. That just hit me. Just now that you said it. Yeah, so yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail about chapter 27, the good parts, because you should read it firsthand, but it was good. It was a good one. Really good one. Want to talk about other things?
I don't remember 28.
Oh.
I was 28. I don't remember 29.
Well, I mean, I can look at it. She's just back at the forge. Nothing crazy. Yeah, just back at the forge. Nothing is happening. She keeps having failed attempts. Just annoyed by it. Carrion is there. He just loves to, like... I know they had a very small, teeny tiny, minuscule relationship, but he just seems like a sibling to me. Like an annoying sibling, you know? Which, they're not siblings, of course, but it's just... I do like Carrion, though. I like him a lot. If he wasn't in the story, I feel like there would be less funny parts. You know what I mean? Do you like him?
No.
You don't like Carrion?
No.
Oh my god, I think he's hilarious. He's really fucking annoying, but I really like him. So yeah, she's just talking to him about like the Quicksilver, and he doesn't think that it talks, and she was like, oh, believe me, if you could hear me, or if you could hear it, it definitely talks. Like, it's a real thing. And Carrion has a bright idea, like, since it laughs at you every time you try something, why don't you just ask what it wants? Or, you know, have it help you out with something. And she was like, well, kind of like, why not think of that? And also, like, no, that would never work. Like, it's just going to taunt me and mock me. But she kind of does it. I mean, skipped some things, but yeah, she was like...
But she has to give it something in return.
Yeah, so she talks to it, and it's starting to talk back to her. And...
Which is kind of scary to think about. Like,
yeah,
you have
really
to give
scary.
something up every time you make one of these relics. Well, wait, it was in the wall, and she was convincing it to come out.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, they're getting ready to do that, yeah. So it's, what's it called? I think they called it a map room. What the meeting place was. We were calling it a war room. I think it's called a map room. Yeah.
I think same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. But, yeah, Karen was just like, oh, well, are you gonna try it? Like, can I watch? And she's like, if you just stay out of the fucking way, okay, you can come and watch. So they go to the map room, war room, whatever, and she goes up to the shards in the wall, pretty much like, all right, here we go. And as she's coming up there, like, it starts to talk to her, and it's like, oh, she's here. Like, she's coming towards her, something like that, and it's like she sees, like, what does she see? She's just coming in here to, maybe they know that she's coming to talk to it. And, she's just kind of like, all right, well, I guess here we go. And she's like, thinking, like, are you there? Can you hear me? And of course, it's going to take a second before it talks back to her, and then it finally comes, and she's asking it if it will just, like, come out, and they were like, why? Like, why should we come out? Like, we're perfectly fine right here. And anyway, she kind of offends it by saying, like, oh, well, like, Danya, like, she owns the sword, and they're like, owns? Like, no one owns us, like, we are our own thing. And she's like, okay, well, maybe I have to, like, reword these things. And anyway, she gets to the point where she is able to convince the Quicksilver, to come out, but she has to, she has to make them into something nice. She has to give them a song, and they have to taste the blood of whoever is going to wield them.
But the blood part was for
the magic. Yeah.
The gods.
So
God's will.
Yeah, I was gonna say that next. Yeah. So she has to first make it into something that they enjoy, and then the song, and then to have it wield magic, they have to taste the blood to make sure the person carrying them is, like, worthy enough to have the power or something. So
the process for making the sword sounded rough.
Yeah, like, it took a long time. It was like 15 hours.
Yeah, I think she said it took 15 hours. And most of those hours was her just melting, folding, hammering, melting, folding, hammering over and over again.
Yeah, and
which just made me think of, like, a metal croissant.
Yeah, definitely a metal croissant. But, yeah, so they are... Well, also, when she thought about the song, she already had Lorith in her mind, because he said that he was once a singer.
Yeah.
And
then he also turns out to be a whittler.
Yeah. But he ends up coming into the room while she's getting the Quicksilver. The Quicksilver is, like, exiting the wall. She's, like, catching it. And he's like, oh, like, I can help with that. And she's like, how long have you been there? And Karen is like, I tried to tell you, but you were really rude to me. Like, I tried to tell you someone was here. So Lorith ends up getting all the Quicksilver out a lot faster and putting it into something that she can carry around to go to the forge with. And, yeah, they go to the forge, all three of them. Yeah, all three of them, right? He doesn't come, like, later. Yeah. So they're all going to the forge. She starts to prepare everything to make this awesome sword. She has, like, a bunch of ideas for the design that she's never been able to do before, because obviously metal was scarce in Zilvaran, but...
And it was also illegal to make weapons.
Yeah. So she's melting things down, she's forging them, and she just says that she just keeps on going, folding, hammering, like, melting until...
Yeah, she said
it just felt right.
In her head, one more time.
Yeah, so she just kept on doing it until it stopped saying one more time, and then in between all of this, she talks to Lorith, and he ends up whittling a
hilt.
A hilt that's a wolf's head. And also in between this, the whole knife thing when Karen had a...
He should have known. The
It's
dude's
still,
like 1,000 something years old.
It's still funny,
of
though.
Of course he can throw
Especially when
knives.
he's just like, it was probably like 50 times. He's like 260. So while all of these things are happening, she has Lorith, carve the wolf's head, and she taught him how to make the mold for it, or, like, she's helping him through a few steps of the process, and she might be, like, finishing up, and she's like, alone, kind of, because she had to go find them, right?
Well, I think they were waiting outside because it was hot.
Yeah, so not like go find them, but they weren't in the direct area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she goes out there and Carrion is like cooking food, and Lorith is just like throwing this little dagger at the tree and like magicking it back to him, and Carrion's all pissy because he made a little bet with Lorith, and he's like, he took that's all the money that I had, or half the money that I had. And she was like, your money doesn't even, like, work here. Like, why are you upset about it? And all Lorith exchanged was like, yeah, you can cook dinner. Because what does he need? He's just a simple guy. And, yeah, so they had the little magic thing, which was really funny. And then, after... Well, this might have been before he made the wolf thing, because he was like, of course, he's good at this too. Like, he's good at everything. But again, like, he has hundreds of years on you, dude. Of course he's good at everything. And Elorith is like, I'm not good. I'm, like, magnificent. Like, I'm really fucking good. So anyway, some more time goes by, and the blade is finally finished. She writes some words on it, engraves some words onto the sword, and Fisher comes in, and he's just like, wow, this is, really amazing, really cool, really good. And Lorith is like, oh, can I hold it? And...
Well, Fisher saw something in the sky first.
Oh, that was after. Oh, here you go.
I don't remember what it was called.
Was it just like the Aurora?
Yeah, but it had a different name.
Oh, I thought it was just called the Aurora. Like, it might have like a name, but they did say Aurora in the book, I think.
That was it.
Oh, so, yeah, so she's like finishing things up, and she knows that Fisher is there, but she talks to him in her head, kind of, and he's like, yeah, I'll come in, like, just chilling out here a little bit longer. And he comes in, Lorith is there, Carrion is kind of like sleeping or whatnot, and yeah, they see the Aurora, and apparently no one has seen the Aurora in like 1,000 years or something like that. So it's like a really kind of monumental sign, I guess. And the sword is all finished. Lorith asks if he can hold the sword, and he didn't even he held on to like the hilt and stuff, but he's just like getting ready to like touch the blade, and it cuts him. He didn't even touch it, and it cuts him, which it didn't even cross my mind until they said it later on. And he's like, wow, he's like, you don't even touch the blade and it already cuts you. And then the light comes, right? Yeah, so it cuts him, and then the Quicksilver is just like, oh, like, we have spoken, like, we agree, we'll do the magic and whatnot. And she's like, well, like, Danya, she hasn't even held the sword. It's like, we had the blood, we accept.
Oh,
and then
that, Lorith sang his song.
Oh, yeah. You're right. So, he still touched it, and then, yeah, Lorith had to, he didn't have to, but, he agreed to sing a song for the blade, because was one of the price that it wanted. So it sings this song, and it talks about Nam Shakrai, something like that. I think it's Nam Shakrai.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's in the pronunciation. He talks about what's the
Ajin.
Oh, yeah, the Ajin Gate, but what's Fisher's thing called? Like, Luna Opelia, whatever. His group name?
Luna It's like a PEO something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so anyway, Lorith is singing a song about Fisher's wolf group going to defeat this beast, creature, dragon at the Ajin Gate. And it's like a really I thought it was a really good song. I learned how to say Nimmerel. It's not Nimmerelli because I had to rhyme, so it's Nimmerel. Kingfisher's sword. And, yeah, so it just talks about them being able to defeat, they said dragon at one point, and they said beast, and they said something else.
I didn't even know how to pronounce that name.
I think it's Amnam Shakrai. I think so. But, yeah, it's a really wonderful song, and the Quicksilver is, like, saying, like, we accept, we're taking the song, it's ours now, we get to keep it, and none of them have any memory about him singing the song. He's like, well, I was thinking about a song, but I never wrote it down before, and now they have no memory of the song. She does. She'll be able to remember things. Yeah, because she's the alchemist, so she'll be able to remember things that other people don't. So the song that he wrote that was beautiful and wonderful is now given to the Quicksilver, and she remembers. And that's when their whole thing is like, okay, we accept, we agree, we're keeping the song, we pretty much love what you made us into, and we taste the blood of who is going to wield us. And then she was like, no, like, it's Danya, this isn't the person. And they're like, we accept, it's been done with, and then just shoots a big giant light into the sky, and it just pretty much turns night into day for a little bit, and then they're like, holy shit, it was like Angel's breath or something like that. Yeah, they're like, that's Angel's breath, and apparently it's like a very, very good power that hasn't obviously been seen since the gods were there or something. Yeah, so it's pretty sick. He's so cute. Did you see him roll over? Yeah, so that happens. It's really wonderful. Yeah, the Ballad of the Ajin Gate. What else? Yeah, the song was nice. Yeah, the Quicksilver is talking to her. Oh, yeah, Lorith was able to name the sword. He called him Lorith of, like, Broken Shires? Lorith of the Broken Shires, and he is able to name the sword, and he was kind of like, oh, like, it's okay, like, usually the alchemist is the one that names the sword, but the Quicksilver, you can't tell the Quicksilver no. So, yeah, Lorith ends up naming the sword. It's like...
You have a really long name.
I thought it was a really short name. It starts with A. It's like Avs is something. Yeah, so they're like really pumped. Fisher's screaming like a little boy, like Angel's breath, like hell yeah. Yeah, so they go back to the tents. Everyone pretty much at the camp saw the column of the Angel's breath, and they're like, nice. And Fisher's pretty much like, alright, come on, you're sleeping in the bed. And she's like, that's okay. But she just like worked straight for like 15 hours, doing like really hard manual labor in a hot forge, sweating, just kind of like in a trance, it seems like, because she was just going for it, you know? She's a true alchemist. Yeah, so... Yeah, he brings her back to the tent. He's like, girl, you need a bath. Like, all offense taken, you smell. So he, like, magics her this bath, helps her. She pretty much, like, collapses. All the excitement is done. Her body is just like, okay, we're done running on, like, adrenaline and energy. Like, we're finished now. So he, like, helps her get out of her clothes and into the bathtub and massages her a little bit, and then is like, okay, rest here, and then, like, the water will stay warm, just relax. And then She fell asleep. She woke up to him, like, washing her hair. Which I feel like it's not a sexual thing, but it's, like, a very intimate thing. It's, like, separate from, like, just being in the shower together, just relaxing and, like, having someone that you're, like, with wash your hair. I mean, obviously it's not that kind of experience when you get your hair done, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So she falls asleep again, and one thing he says is that when she's kind of asleep but coming to, he was like, "You are a good thief," and she's like, "What did I steal?" What do you think she stole?
His heart.
I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, what a softie. Yeah, she definitely stole his heart. Yeah, so everything was great. She's relaxing, she's getting some more sleep, and what's it say?
She wakes up like pre-dawn.
Yeah. She hears the Anorth Moore thing again. She's like, hello? I just hear like blackness and then just like by herself like, hello? It's like, hello? And then the Quicksilver is like, ah! Just like going crazy in her head. Yeah, so she says like hello to the thing. She like introduces herself and they're like, we know, like she's the moon, she's the stars, like she's everything. And then she just wants to ask him like, just leave Fisher, just leave his body, you know. And they're like, leave, we can't leave, we are him, he is us. Like just like talking. I feel like they're really annoying sometimes. It's not the same beings. It's like different beings that are all together, you know what I mean? Because this one, the Quicksilver in his eye is different than the Quicksilver that was like embedded in the wall. It's like different than the Quicksilver that was in the forge. Like it's similar, but they all have different wants and needs and conversations, you know? Yeah, so she's trying to talk to it, saying like, you know, you're hurting him, just leave him. And they're like, well, pretty much like if we leave him, we'll die and he'll die, and like we're one. We cannot leave what's already there. Like we are like here, and he obviously hears all of this, and well, he doesn't hear it, but she was like, did you hear all that? And he's like, well, I can kind of guess based on what it was saying, like what you were saying. And he was like, appreciate it, but like I've accepted it. I wonder how much he had in him that they're only able to leave like a little bit in the eye, like, you know what I mean? Yeah, things like that happen, and then things are like waking up, conversations ended, and then of course here's the ice banging again, which, what a wake up call. Do you want to talk about this?
Ren bursts into the tent.
Yeah, she has like a little camisole on and under the thing.
He's like, sorry guys. A couple times over. Get your armor on and get down to the river?
Yeah. There's a river.
They put their armor on, they get their swords, they go down there, and they see...
Well, she argues with him about wanting to come. And he was like, are you going to listen to me? If I tell you to do something, are you going to do it? And she's like, yeah, I promise. And then she's allowed to come.
Oh, and she's carrying his dad's sword.
Yeah, the sword that she took out of the ground back in Madra's palace. Which, I can go her.
And then they go down to the river. They are chipping away at the ice, but there's some braver vampire zombie things that are
pretty much vampire
like
zombie. Trying
to cross, even though they can't swim. They finally.
Is this is like a not just this story, but I feel like I've heard this in other lore before, that they can't cross over running water. Have you heard that from anything else before? Oh, okay, section.
I forgot.
The braver ones are at this bend where the shores are a lot closer together, but the ice isn't frozen yet. And like they're intelligent, but still they're intelligent enough to know that they can't cross it easily, but they're not intelligent enough to where they're not gonna still try.
So they broke the ice, and everyone was starting to celebrate. But then some of the vampires who were able to like catch a piece of ice and not sink started climbing, and they started climbing out.
Fuck that.
And they're yelling breach and going to fight them, and some of them are really weak and it's easy to take them out, and some of them are much stronger. And then she mentioned how there was like dozens that fell into the river, but then climbing out of the river was like 200. So I feel like there was some magic going on, bringing the ones that had drowned up. Like maybe they didn't die when they drowned, they just like stayed alive but under the water.
Well, they had to be on their side because the barrier, like the invisible barrier that's like halfway between the river. So they must have been on their side of the river because they can't magic across the river, so they must have been holding on their side and then able to cross later or something like that.
And Kingfisher went to go closer, and he told her to stay behind. She stayed behind, but there was too many of them, and they started getting up on shore, walking around, attacking people. And then Ren told her to run, but she didn't listen. And they fought together and killed a bunch of vampire zombies.
Pretty good teamwork.
Yeah, and then there was one point where she almost got bit, but she somehow was able to, like, quicker than she should have been able to, get down and stop the vampire zombie from, like, biting her. I think this could be one of two things. I think either she has distant fae blood somewhere, or the sword at some point started talking to her, like demanding blood. So
I think
it could have been that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, fae either from distant in her blood or her mate bond. Like, maybe she's able to get his powers.
Also, adrenaline, too, maybe. She knew what she had to do, and her body just took over. Her mind was
faster than that.
I know,
even
but
Kingfisher didn't think she made it through. And he picks her up with his magic, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And he's checking her whole body. She's like, "Dude, put me down. We got too much going on for you to be doing all that." And I forgot one point. Ren said, "You have to stay by my side because I'm not going to be responsible for the only reason Fisher is alive to die."
Yeah.
The only thing keeping him alive to die. And she was confused by it, but she didn't have time to really think about it.
Yeah.
So they finally kill all the zombie vampires.
Cool thing happened.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Lorith uses the angel's breath thing, and it's like getting a whole bunch of other things, and then everyone is just like, yeah, cheering, having a good old happy time. Then what happens?
They start to celebrate again, but across the river, they hear a voice call out for Kingfisher. And it's Everlane, and she's got a chain around her neck. And not only does she have a chain around her neck, she's been bitten by Malcolm, which means she has, I can't remember if it's 24 or 48. There's some amount of hours to where Malcolm can either keep her alive or turn her or let her die and turn into a mindless zombie vampire.
I think it's 56 hours.
And they're all really sad and upset about it. But I kind of thought that something had been going on whenever during the battle Sarah said that she saw a maid that was dressed similar to the Winter Palace. So I kind of wasn't totally taken by surprise to see her there. I also predicted that she would be there at some point. So I wasn't too surprised to see her. I mean, I was surprised that she was bitten on the wrong side. But I wasn't surprised that she was there and that the castle was attacked. Especially because I think that was one of the maids from the Winter Castle.
Yeah. But, like, it wasn't even Malcolm that was there. It was, like, one of his little, like, lord people. Yeah, and he was
princes.
Very friendly with Kingfisher, so...
Yeah, he was like, if you do this, she dies. If you do this, you can save her life.
Yeah.
But he doesn't just want you anymore. He wants Sarah's too.
Yeah, he wants the alchemist, and Kingfisher is like, absolutely not. But now he has to, like, we gotta go get Everlane. Oh, and one part that really pissed me off is what the guy said. His name was, like, Tala something. When he was talking about how, Taladaeus? How, what did he say? Ew. Yeah, he said, pretty much if you're not going, he said my father, so I guess it's his son. Yeah, Taladaeus was like, you're gonna meet my father at this place in this many hours, and if you don't, then, he's gonna make sure that Everlane makes it through the change, and that she's gonna spend the rest of eternity on her back, being pretty much essayed by these things, these people, one after another, and I was like, that's awful. Yeah, and it's just like, just give him Saris, and then everything will be good and dandy, and obviously that's not gonna happen whatsoever. Yeah, so they're having a little pickle right now about everything. Am I just gonna talk the next part? Am I just gonna talk the whole time? Why? I don't want to talk the whole time. Anyway, so they're all annoyed that he has Everlane, and they're all just doing nothing right now, but there's really nothing they can do. They have to meet Malcolm at this spot, but they have to figure out how to get the venom out of her. All the witches are gone, like all the powerful ones who are able to do it, they're all gone, and they have to find the next best thing, but also they have to start making more relics since she's able to make the sword. Danya at one point is really pissed off, and I love this part. She's like really pissed off at Lorith, like, that's my sword, like, give it back to me, and there comes a point, which I agree, you gotta learn a lesson. So they didn't fight her, they let her try to take the sword, and then her hand is gone. They took her hand for trying to touch something that wasn't hers anymore. Sword used to be hers, but this isn't her sword. It's been forged, it's been made new, it's something completely different. And yeah, she lost her hand, and then Fisher's like, are you gonna stop now? Like, if I help you regrow this thing, get you some help, like, are you gonna quit? Finally, she, like, reluctantly agrees, like, okay, yeah, I promise, whatever. So, Ren, Lorith, Danya, Carrion, Saris, and Fisher Shadowgate back to Kalish. Is that where that? Yeah. Shadowgate back to there. gonna go to the library, try to read as much as they can, figure out what to do. Other people are gonna go to this one location where half witches are, and I thought this part was really funny with Carrie, and he's like, well, can I come? And Danya is like, absolutely not. And Fisher is just like, pretty much agreeing, like, no, you can't come because you're gonna try to have sex with one of them. And Lorith is like, no, like, a half witch, who would want to do that? And Carrie is like, yeah, I probably would. It's probably best that, you know, I stay because I would try just to say that I did it. So at least he recognizes his personality, his flaws, his whatever. So that was like kind of comedic relief. That was funny. And also that Danya said that he was pretty. He was like, the blonde one thinks I'm pretty. Sarah's just like, God, shut up, you know. So anyway, they're still trying to read about things, figure out what's going on. Danya, Lorith, and not Lorith, right? Lorith stays. Is Danya, Ren, and Kingfisher go to talk to the witches?
I think Lorith goes to...
Because I know Ren comes back, and he's really pissed off.
No, Lorith doesn't go.
Yeah, so Danya, Ren, and Fisher go talk to the half-witches, and Ren returns, and he's really pissed off. Like,
Covered in mud.
Yeah, covered in mud, like he's been through another little war. And they're like, what the heck happened? And Ren is like, we freaking had him. And then Danya just starts running her mouth. It's the least you can do for running away all these years. And then banished her, kind of. She's not coming back to the place. She's going wherever the heck she was going. And Kingfisher is going to go talk to them again. Some time goes by. Kingfisher comes back with a witch in tow. Ishabel? I think that's what her name was.
Ishabel?
Yeah, Ishabel comes back with her. She looks around the same age as Saris, but that doesn't mean anything. And she's going to be able to help Everlane out once they get her back. And yeah, they're able to do it. Or she will be able to do it. And then...
Didn't the part with the healer happen before this? Or is it after this?
I think it's after. Yeah, so before they're going to leave the tent, then they're all talking about the battle and how she fought really well. And now they're, like, giving thanks. And she's like, I don't need to have any thanks right now. Like, let's just go do what we gotta do. And then we can do all of this later. And they're like, none of us are promised tomorrow. We kind of do these things when we have time. So they're all cutting their Ren and Lorith. They like cut their palm or cut their hand and place it on her chest, and is like, oh, like calling her sister, like, we give our blood and thanks, sister, for like the battle that she did. And Laura says sister, Ren says sister, and then Fisher says her name, which he's never said her name. And he's like, I give you my blood and thanks. And then she's all like, the fuck? Like, human was first, then Oshelith, like, then Osha, now little Osha, and now he says my name. She's like, he never said my name, that's all crazy. Yeah, so it was really crazy stuff. And they go, anyway, they go to, like, they all go through, getting ready to go through, like, a shadow gate, go back to the dining room table place, and, does she go first, or does Danya go first?
She goes first.
Oh, yeah, so, she goes first, she sits at the spot that she's been sitting in, and Danya comes through and is just like, oh, like, why do you think you're so important? Like, you should just move from that spot. Like, you're just a little human. Just, like, taunting her pretty much. And she's like, I've been sitting here this whole time. Like, it must mean something important because now Danya is, like, saying something about it like Archer did, and Ren kind of looked at her weird that one time, and now Danya's saying it. And then she's like, Danya, I don't know like what the big deal is. It's just the chair. And then Danya's like, of course you would think that because you're just a human pretty much. It's like, the seat is for the lady of the house. Like, Fisher's wife is going to be sitting there, not some little human like you.
Yeah, and she'll be a high fae of a respectable family or something.
Yeah, high fae from like a respectable family, and
not some human.
Yeah, and then she's just like, "This is crazy. How can you pretty much do this? You're such a stupid girl. Like, just move." And then Ren steps through, and he's like, "Don't worry, you're perfect right where you are." And then Danya, like, she hates this. She's such a sore loser. Like, she wants everything her way, but there's literally no reason for it, because I don't feel like she's ever been held in such a high regard like that. Yeah, she's part of, like, the group with Fisher, but I feel like she's not up on this high pedestal that she thinks she is. I just think she's angry because she's getting overlooked by a human.
Yeah, I think it's also might be another reason is that she's like, she was the only girl in their group, and now there's another girl, so.
She also has thousands of years on freaking Ceres. But yeah, so, yeah, Danya is so annoyed about that. She's like, she's a human. Like, what other rules is she allowed to break? Like, this is crazy. And Ren is just like, she's honorable, she's brave, she's so cool and amazing. And pretty much, like, Danya's, well, everyone is in the Shadowgate now. And Danya's like, we know you fucked her. Everyone can smell you on her. And he's like, my personal business is not up for discussion. Like, he doesn't care that you can smell them, you know? And yeah, Laura brings Carrie in through too, and he's like, oh yeah, he was sleeping, I found him, he's carrying a fucking plant. Like, he's like, oh well, I figured if it can survive up there, it should have a good life. Like, why are you carrying a plant? Yes, it was really, really funny. They're kind of like, not annoyed, but they're like, dude, you literally stepped through a battle. You sleep very deep. I feel like I could also sleep through a battle. Maybe. I'm pretty wake up if I feel like I'm threatened, but I don't know how far away he was from everything, but either way. Yeah, so, what else happens?
The healer?
Yeah, but they're taking someone to I think they're taking Danya to the healer. And Sarah's like, what about us? Like, what should we do? And he was like, you should make as many relics as you can. And Ren left with Danya and Fisher to do the healer. And yeah, stuff goes on. Not really, like, too important, but she
makes her first relic.
Yeah, she's making some relics, and then this Quicksilver wanted a secret before it would agree to work for her, bind or something like that. So she's like, okay, well, if I tell you the secret, will I still know the secret? Will it ever disappear from my mind? And like, oh yeah, you'll know it and we'll also know it. So she tells him a secret about not wanting to go back to Zilvarin. She wants to go back to like get Hayden and Elroy, but she wants to come back here. She doesn't want to go back to Zilvarin anymore. And they accepted the secret. They liked it. And Carrion is talking about how he thought it was weird that Fisher was like encouraging him to like really take a bath, and he ended up getting told about like they said like Fae Hopper or something like that, or like the Fae that like to sleep around.
Yeah.
They like to do these baths so no one gets like jealous or something. Which in my head, if you're sleeping with someone, your scent is on them. if they come meet me again and my scent is gone, to me that's a red flag. Like,
maybe most of them know that before they go into it.
Probably, but I'm just like, yeah, so he talks about, I like how he's just like, that water nymph, just like emphasizing like her boobs or some shit like that. Yeah, so talking about those things, trying not to really bring up the fact that, you know, Fisher does have feelings for her. She's just kind of like, you know, it's whatever. Yeah, anyway, the ring ends up being able to bind with the relic and the silver, so she finally made her first official relic, and she's like, let me just try it on, and then suddenly everything is like shut down, just screaming in Northmore over and over and over again, and she's like panicked and beak stretch. She's like panicked and freaking out, and she ends up taking the ring off, and Taylana is at the door, and she ends up talking to her a little bit, and Carrion is also like, she's trying to get in everybody's pants. I feel like just to say that he had sex with the Fae, like, he's just trying to get to everybody, and Taylana is like, listen, dude, I'm happily married, it's never gonna happen, and he was just like, well, can I just join if, like, you and your husband, like, Carrion, they don't want you to join, like, in on their little escapade, you know, which I thought was really funny, and she starts talking about her tattoos on her hands and how after like a 5-year anniversary, they're able to go have their tattoos
decorate them.
Yeah, done for them. And now Sarah, she has like a bunch of questions. She's just like, they don't just like show up by themselves, and Taylana's like laughing. She's like, no, like we design them and someone does them for us. And she's not saying everything exactly because we skipped this part, but Kingfisher was able to like conceal her tattoos, so no one knows that they're there, but I did mention that they will fade like after a month or something like that, so no one really knows that her tattoos are on her hands, but she talks about them, and she's just like, yeah, they don't just appear, we get them put on, like no matter if we're engaged in anything with our husband or wife, they don't just appear on us, and if they do, then it's supposed to be like a true mate mark, but no one has seen that in thousands of years, probably just like a myth. And then she keeps talking to her a little bit more, and like, well, what about like words that like wrap around your wrist? And she's like, oh, well, like that's God binding, or God's binding, and she was like, it's like something tragic, like one of the people are gonna die, like, which he better not die. Kingfisher better not die.
What if she dies?
I don't care if she dies. I mean, she's cool and all, but I'm not a girl, so she can die, I don't care. She'll do her purpose, and then it's fine. But yeah, so they talked about how
I think she's gonna die.
You think she is?
Yeah, I think she's gonna die and be reborn.
I think so too. Yeah, I think she'll be reborn. I think so too. Because how else could she just be lucky with everything? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. Yeah, so anyway, she's really. Well, there's a second one coming out, and I didn't see like spoilers about anything with her, just that there's a cliffhanger, which doesn't tell you anything, you know? So, possibly. Yeah, so she just talks about the tattoos, and Saris is like getting now visibly like upset, and she's like, okay, well, I gotta go, and then she goes and finds Fisher, and is just like instantly furious. She's just like, when are you gonna tell me about all of these things? And he's just like, no, there's like more conversation, and she's like, God bindings and true mate marks, and then we find out that his mom ended up being like a really good oracle, and how she can see things, and how she wrote a book for Fisher saying that he was going to meet her, and she did like a really good job about describing her. Your turn to talk.
Oh, what?
Oh, where I just left off. About the book and the mom and the conversations. My throat hurts.
He talks about how his mom knew she was coming. And he made a book she made a book for him about things that would happen throughout his life. And the last thing in the book was a picture of her face. He said she almost got it perfect, except for she gave you fae ears, which is why I think she's gonna die and become reborn. And he was like, so when I saw you in the floor, I was gonna leave you there, but you were cut open and dying, so I couldn't just leave you there. And he took her back. And then he said, I've known this whole time that we're mates. And she gets really angry. She's like, oh, I'm so glad that you've made these decisions for us, that you've
which is totally
done
fair.
These, I agree.
Totally
that
fair.
You've done all these hard, like, decisions, thought about this in such a deep way for months, and haven't brought it up to me once. And she kind of like gives him a piece of her mind. And she was really upset, so she just kind of like left him.
He talks about the O'Shellis.
I don't remember.
She just is talking about how, like, oh, you're just choosing this because I'm, like, a weak little human, like, I can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. She's like, just like that little butterfly that you, like, named me after. And he was like, well, I didn't tell you the whole story about the butterfly. And come to find out that, like, the butterfly is only in one location and very high up in the mountains, and
it's like really cold there.
Yeah, it's really cold there, and it's like not like a rite of passage, but like an honor to be amongst the fae that will go try to protect the eggs or the cocoons while they hatch, and the O'Shellis like hatch, find a mate, lay babies, and then lay eggs, and then they and they have the eggs, and then they fill the air, and they dance, and apparently they like sing some kind of song. And sometimes the fae like die trying to protect him because it's very, very cold. So it's like O'Shellis is like most sacred. So he's been using it in like a harsh way, saying it in a harsh way, but it means like most sacred. So she's like the most sacred thing to him.
And also he's said that names have like importance.
Yeah, like Kingfisher probably isn't his name. Only usually the moms know what their true names are because people can use it against you. So here she comes, a puny little human with just one name. Like she doesn't have anything to protect her. So he just wouldn't say her name until that time.
I think he also didn't want to say her name in case it like immediately clicked the mate bond.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. So she's just like,
yeah, they're both
taken aback,
both upset.
He mentions that he's rejected the mate bond, and after a month,
he tried to, but he couldn't do it. So he kind of like forced her to do it, and she didn't know.
But they can take it back.
Like paused it.
Yeah, so they can take it back. I don't think it's been taken back yet, but I think they have a month when the tattoos and stuff are gonna disappear, apparently. So he's just talking about like, I didn't want to accept the mate bond because I'm gonna die, and I don't want to put someone through that. And she's pretty much like, you don't get to choose for me, which I agree. I see his side. You know, I get it. You don't want to someone you love. He never said it, but you know, you don't want to put someone through that if you can avoid it when you already know what's going to happen. But also, it's her decision to make if she would like to be by your side. Yeah, it might hurt and like really upset her if he dies, but at least she'll be able to. He's not alone. You know what I mean? He's just like, oh well, I'll just have Ren like kill me, and then she's like, how can you do that to Lorith? Like, you're gonna make him spend like this whole time like without you, and you're gonna be stuck like in limbo. He was pretty annoyed that he's like, oh well, that was a secret. I guess we're telling secrets now. And she's pretty much like, Lorith will kill himself if Kingfisher dies because he doesn't want Kingfisher to be stuck in limbo. Yeah, he doesn't want all those things to happen, and kind of arguing.
And Kingfisher said that he's still gonna have himself killed no matter what, and he's just gonna tell everyone before he kills himself that he is going to a different realm.
Yeah,
so that no one worries.
Yeah, which Lorith is gonna know. Everyone, maybe not everyone, but people closest to him, they're probably gonna know because I'm sure he's gonna get worse the closer he gets to wanting to kill himself. So they're gonna see definite signs.
Well, he was already gone for 110 years.
Yeah, but yeah, she's really, really annoyed, and she's just like, you know what? You're selfish. You're stupid. I'm gonna go to bed, and in the morning, like, we're gonna figure out all these ways to save Everlane and how to save you, and it's gonna be like good, you know?
Yeah. She sleeps on the couch. Wakes up and he's watching her. And then she goes to leave, but she kind of like, was he shaking?
Yeah.
He was shaking, so she went back and she hugged him for a long time until he finally like stopped and calmed down. And as soon as he stopped, she left.
Yeah. And flicking through the pages, we meet Ishabel in the last chapter, 36. So we didn't meet her yet, but still the things still kind of go in order. And they meet her, and they're like, all right, I guess we're all ready to go do this thing. Now chapter 36. When they meet the witch. So we're about to go get some more interactions with Malcolm and Everlane. Hopefully Everlane is there. Because if he doesn't even bring Everlane, then they got to figure out something else.
Yeah. I think that in the next chapters, because we're going to finish the book next.
Yeah.
I think that Ceres is going to die. I think she's probably going to sacrifice herself for either Kingfisher or her brother. So she'll either die to Malcolm or the Queen. And I feel like maybe the Queen and Malcolm might team up, trying to win against...
You think who's going to team up?
The Queen and Malcolm.
Oh, Madra and Malcolm? Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Ceres. I was like, what?
I don't know if that'll really happen in this book. Maybe it'll be the second book. And I think that Kingfisher is gonna get worse because he already was having to see.
Telena is like, before you go, you have to see me. When you get back, you have to see me.
So after any excursion or energy tests that take energy, he had to go see her for healing. So I think he's gonna get worse. I think she's gonna make more rings, but I think they're gonna be demanding more and more from her, and maybe that could weaken her, which will lead to her death.
Possibly. The Quicksilver demanding things?
Yeah. Or maybe the Quicksilver, like, shows her something and, like, she sees her brother or something. And maybe she'll take a ring and cross. Maybe. By herself. I could see that happening. What about you?
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a showdown. I don't know if I think Madra will come back, but there's definitely going to be obviously a showdown with Malcolm and Everlane. I don't know if they'll get Everlane back, but yeah, I'm just excited for the meeting.
I don't think they're gonna get Everlane back in time, but I think maybe they'll find the cure in the second book.
They'll be able to save her in a different kind of way. Yeah.
I think because she's a trap that they're too well prepared for whatever
I feel like Malcolm
might come up with. I think he also has a mole in there somewhere.
Oh. Do you think it's Ren?
No. I think it might be a sprite or a warrior.
Maybe. We haven't really... The only warrior we knew, or that we've heard of, is the other guy who greeted them when they first got to the war camp.
I think it's him.
Maybe. I don't think it's Archer. He's not really there. He's in college, but...
No, I don't think it's Archer.
Yeah.
I also think... What if it's her wolf? Fox.
Ah, Onyx?
Yeah, because sometimes it's too sentient.
Sure. I don't think it. I think it's just a fox.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's just a fox. But, I don't know. I'm ready for this showdown with Malcolm and
I'm excited
Everlane.
to finish the book, but I'm also not, because I know that's going to be a really long time before the next one.
We gotta decide which one we're reading next.
When's that other book come out?
Which one?
What have you done?
January.
Dang it.
Yeah, what did you do? No, how do you feel? What did you... Something like that, yeah.
How did you feel, or how did it feel?
How do you feel is the first one, right?
How do you feel? No, what did you do is the first one.
How does it feel is the second one, I think. Yeah. And what did you do is the third one, maybe. But yeah, that comes out in January. Yeah, we're gonna finish the book.
I kind of want to do a shorter one next.
Oh.
I need a little break.
Well, you can read Little Stranger.
No.
I'm on chapter 5. Yeah, so next video we're going to be finishing the book, giving more overall things. And should we tell them the next book in the next video?
Nah.
Okay. I tried. No, just kidding. But yeah.
You'll know when we know, which will probably be after that video.
Maybe. Alright. I don't think there's really much else to say.
No.
This is second to last episode. One more left, and then we've officially finished our first book, unbinding these chapters. Okay, bye!